Hello there, this is Jana live. This might be recorded when you see it, but we are doing this live from Panama, and I'm here with my friend Jason, and we will be touching on a few interesting subjects today. So, in case I'm new to you, I'm Jana from the page Jana Coaching on Instagram. You can find me also on Facebook, on my website. You've got everything. We're going to include it here in the description, depending on which platform you see this from. You're going to have all the details to find us as well. Jason, how are you? Why don't you introduce yourself as well?
I'm Jason. I'm friends with Jana, but we've been. I'm sort of an advocate for shared parenting and love and all things nice. But I was just laughing just now because you couldn't we couldn't. There's one time we used to say Fathers' Rights UK, the Facebook group, or whatever. But now in the last 12 months, I think I've changed the name about 20 times. So it's got no real identity now. It's just like narcissistic group. It's this whatever, and it's just so it's changed so much. But I think that's part of the journey and a part of everything that I'm where I'm at right now. So we haven't spoken for a little while, and I thought it'd be good that we had a catch up because we haven't done anything, and I think I'm seeing lots of people, and part of where I'm at with my online journey and whatnot, I'm seeing lots of people doing lots of good stuff, and I want to jump in on that and try and learn from it as well. And plus, my speaking, you've not done. I've been missing my articulation lessons, and we've not done any of them for a little while.
Well, I think everybody will understand you if you just pause a little bit here and there. I know you're a really fast thinker and fast talker. I can understand you just fine, though.
Well, this is good. This is good. I think as I've got I think mainly what I want to speak to you about. I've got a few things actually, right? So obviously Lila's 15, right? This is my main thing. So she's doing lots of sensible things, which is really odd, right? So think of it as like a therapy session, right? For me a little bit, right? She's doing lots of odd things, right? And that what I mean by that is when I was her age, I was going out and getting drunk, and I was being boisterous. And well, mind you, in a few months' time, when I was Lila's age, I was dropping out of school and looking after my family and going out and getting a job. So Lila's in a different space, but she's doing lots of really positive. It's all positive stuff. It's all positive stuff, but it's all things I don't know. Is it normal? Because I wasn't like that.
Well, just to frame this a little bit for people who might watch this later and not know us really that well.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so Jason lives in the UK, you can hear that. And he has a daughter who is 15. And it's funny because your daughter's name is Lila. My daughter's name is Lila.
Okay.
And she's 14 years old. And I'm European. I was born in Germany, but I spent most of my life in Spain. And a few years ago, I moved to Central America, to Panama. And I work from here. It's great to be nearer to everyone's time zone, actually. And I've dedicated the last years of my life in being a coach, primarily for fathers, but I also help fatherless daughters who are adults now and want to reconnect with their dads. That's an incredible process to watch. It's really, really awesome, and I love doing that. But let's say most of my clients are fathers or stepmothers also who are helping their husbands because they're either being alienated from their kids or the contact is really difficult after a divorce or during, or the classic case, I haven't seen my daughter in 10 years. How do I approach reconnection now? And this is how we met with Jason because he said, look, you teach something that would be so useful to some of my clients. I think what you do in the UK is awesome also to help parents through that process, especially when they're involved in family court and don't really know how to deal with all of that. So it's curious to see that we both have daughters. They have a similar name. They are very close in age, and they are getting older. And I get many questions from people actually lately. People who ask me like for advice in parenting teenagers, and I say, look, that's not really my expertise in terms of coaching. I'm not an educator for kids or anything, but we talk to so many parents every single year. I think that's why we might.
Oh no,
have
I think for me, I talk to. For me, I think because I'm a big learner anyway, so I've gone through life learning. I learn from you. I've learned from clients. I learn from everyone, and it's like to understand what you would do as a parent. Because there's no book, is there? There's no book. There's no book on how to be a parent. There's no right or wrong thing you can do. All you can do is what you believe to be best and making the best out of any given situation and circumstance, because what you might have might not be much, but as long as you can give them love and as long as you can give them memories and happiness, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
creation of the creation of memories is actually really important. That's something also I hear from many parents who say, look, I just feel bad because I can't create memories with my kids right now because I don't see them. But yeah, that's only one part of it. But I think it's a bit ironic because there are so many books out there on parenting, but in the end, it's like everything. When it's you in that situation with your child,
Yeah.
the books don't matter really. Then you have to know sometimes you have to sometimes follow your instincts and what you know about your child, about yourself, your experience, trust it a little bit and just do what you think will be best. And I think sometimes our daughters are smarter than we are. My daughter teaches me a lot every single day.
I think I've learned a lot since Lila's been born. Like since it's from the moment she was born. To be honest with you, I think that's something when you're a parent, that's something that it's instantly happens. I think obviously with women, you've got. I don't know. I'll say this. It's like your bond is going to be slightly different. It's because you're a woman and because you carry the child, but because you carry the child as well. So I'm helping a mum whose child is in the UK with a non-biological parent. The dad is passed, unfortunately. She's in Portugal. There's been some mix-up with all sorts of paperwork, and it's all over the place. There's been countless paper applications all over everywhere, but the child is with a non-biological family, and for the mum, that's difficult. That's like if logically that child should be with me. That child should be mine. But the child now sees the mum, the aunt, the person looking after it, as the mum or the motherly figure, because that's how it's been. Because she probably still feels maternally closer to the dad on that side of the family, because and the dad's passed. So it's like the mum can't put herself in the child's shoes. She thinks she's done something wrong, but then the poor child, she's saying there's brainwashing going on. There's all that sort of stuff happening because you can see how she's treating the mum is just not normal. It's just not normal, and it's awful to listen to and see. But to try and console her somehow, I can't put myself in her shoes. I can because I know how it felt for me and I know how it feels for me with Lila and stuff. But I can't at the same time because I didn't carry the child. But then I can just feel that if I would have carried the child, if I would have carried Lila, not being her taken away from me, and I don't know how I would have coped with that because I didn't cope properly in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I myself being a mother, I couldn't imagine really my daughter being raised by someone else suddenly. But of course, I've been with her all her life. We never separated in that sense. Of course, she has spent time with my mother, in Spain on a vacation, and she always did fine. I mean, she never had these issues like, oh my God, I miss my mom, I need to go back. She always has been fine with other family members that she trusts, and she's very social. I mean, it's not difficult for her to adapt to other people, but of
That's
course,
healthy.
she's
That's
always
healthy
had a
though.
sense. Yeah, I think so. And my theory, I mean, not only my theory, I've read a bit, but I think it helps when you're with your child very consistently when they're really young after they're born. She never was in daycare or anything like that until she wasn't almost 2. She wasn't in a kind of a kindergarten setting or anything. And I only brought her to a kind of group. That's when I was living in Germany. They had this kindergarten place where they had different groups, and it was like multi-age spaces. So her group was like 12 kids, all different ages, between 2 to 6. So it was like a big family, not only kids the same age. So the bigger kids could teach her something. She could also play with kids who were slightly smaller or younger. And the educators really they built like a space where it was a little bit like a family dynamic with a lot of siblings. So, and I only brought her there because I saw she had no separation anxiety or anything. She really wanted to be with kids. When I went to the park, she saw the kids and she always went, and she was a quick talker. So at almost 2, she already could say small sentences. So I said, okay, cool, seems to fit. 4 hours a day. So in that time I can work or do something else. also, I have to say, I was getting divorced at that time.
Okay.
So I suddenly was a lot of time alone with her. And it was good to see that she was happy with people I really trusted. I saw they were really good at what they did. It was 5 minutes walking from my apartment, so I could go and get her if something was wrong. But there was never anything wrong. She really had a lot of fun over there. But I think because I always was there, she never developed that anxiety that I see other kids having, that they cry
But this is
really,
the problem,
really
though.
badly when mom leaves or dad leaves them there. And I think, oh my God, poor kid. Like, I get that maybe you don't know how else to organize yourself and you feel you need to leave your child here, but maybe this is not right, because that, kids hysterically crying.
That's the problem. I
Like
think
if
that's the
you,
problem. I think from what I know,
I
right?
think that's a problem there,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah. I think that's the problem. I think it's a big problem because
So go ahead.
go on. I'm terrible at this, but I think there's a big. I think when you've got, I used to drop Lila off and then walk away. She used to cry for me, and there was times where I used to pander to it, but normally 9 times out of 10, I'll just drop off and go. Yeah. But then,
Yeah,
but you've got parents, or not even parents. You've got situations where the the children are not they're not coming away from the parent, the mum. It's separation anxiety, almost separation anxiety, and it's like
yeah.
that's when they've been mollycoddled too much and they've not had enough time to socialize, and that's not good at all. That's not good. That's not healthy.
I don't think it, yeah, I don't think it's healthy either. I get it when many moms then, I mean, maybe now many moms will be commenting, listening to this and saying, oh my God, but don't be that negative. The kids don't die because you leave them in daycare. Like, I don't know what else to do. I get all that. It's all life circumstances. It depends also on what choices you made before or how you're able to earn a living, what family setting you have. So I totally respect people's choices. But, recently I saw a few videos of a lady who seems to have a lot of expertise in this field, like
Yeah.
really small children. And she has done some research into what happens to this baby or to this very small child when you leave them somewhere for several hours a day. Some people leave them there for 8 hours, and the kids are not even 4 months old, like really long time. And the lady who was interviewing her said, I don't really remember what this lady's name is. If I find it later, we can add it in the
Yeah.
description maybe.
Yeah.
This lady said, when you leave a really small baby that cannot even sit or talk or anything, that maybe is being breastfed still,
Mm-hmm.
and you leave that baby with this stranger and you leave, for this baby, it's really like you disappeared, like you've died. They don't know you're going to come back.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. I can imagine.
So yeah, so she said, and then the mother feels bad because, I mean, you can't tell me
Right,
the
yeah.
mother feels super happy to do that. So the only way that the kid can get used to it and the mom can get used to it is to really separate, detach yourself, like, okay, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. So the pain is not that intense. And the child does the same. They have to kind of, I don't know if you can say teach themselves or
You
get
have to.
used
That's
to
what I say to people now.
disconnect. So,
You can.
and that's when an unhealthy attachment system can form, because you constantly have to leave that child and come back, leave that child. But the child is not like an adult. They don't understand what time is and that in 4 or 5 or 6 hours you're gonna be back. They really think you've disappeared. So they said that causes a lot of anxiety in a lot of children, and that actually they did studies with the kids growing up, and they said there was a strong correlation between some behavioral issues, difficulty to concentrate, stuff like that, and daycare. And that kids who never had been in daycare were different. So I know many people go crazy when they hear this. It's ugly. They
No,
don't want to
that's
know.
interesting. That's interesting. That's really interesting.
But
That's
it's
really interesting.
interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's really interesting
yeah, yeah, yeah.
indeed.
That's
So I would
crazy.
like to know more.
That is definitely fascinating to understand because what happens to us as children shapes us as who we are. Absolutely right. So
Mm,
I'm like very much. I've done a lot of. I'm on like a journey. I'm sort of woke. You know what I mean? We always. I don't know, but like we. I can't remember much about my childhood. And I said to someone the other day. I said, "What? Do you remember your childhood?" I remember. I think I remember. I remember on my 7th birthday. That's my like earliest memory, right? And that's a bad memory.
okay.
And I started looking at it, and I was like, "Shit, that's the only memory that I've got." And so I started doing some research, and I was like, "Fuck, that's bad. That's bad that I've got no memories that are that are from a younger age, because some people can remember from like when they're 4 years old, and that's because they've had happy memories,
Yeah.
they've got good memories, and that's when they're. But I've had the bad ones, and then my bad ones have knocked out the good.
Hmm.
No, is that what it is?
Well, what you're saying is interesting because I actually have a few memories from when I was 4 years old.
Right.
I even have a slight blurry memory from when I was 3 years old, but I
There you
don't
go.
remember
Yeah.
exactly who was there. But I remember sometimes sensations or a type of lightning. I
Yeah.
don't know
Okay.
if
Yeah.
this sounds crazy, but I remember that, like the atmosphere of things. And when I was 4, I have a few memories that are good, and I also have some that are really bad that
Yeah. Yeah.
they still are
They're
here.
still there.
I
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
little bit of therapy with that. I had a lot of conversations with my mother. She's really amazing. She's actually very well trained in children's education. She used to be a specialist in children who had behavioral issues or weren't well adjusted or had problems at home. So she was the one they called for the really hard cases.
Yeah.
So, and she actually has a natural intuition and talent with kids. So she's a better mother than I will ever be. She always has ideas what to do with kids. She's so loving. She respects children so much and always has that kind of communication that matches their energy. You can
Hmm.
always leave any kid with her. She's going to do amazing. Even if it's a kid that everybody says, oh, this child is problematic, my mom will probably do awesome. And
Excellent.
she told me, yeah, and she told me like, yes, if you need to talk about these bad memories, let's do it. And the good thing is she could cry even and let things out. She felt so sorry that I witnessed some stuff. I could tell her how I felt about it. Then we saw, she didn't even know I saw certain things and I remembered.
Yeah.
But now that she knew, she could help me with it.
Yeah.
And this is a very important point here because many fathers or mothers who are trying to reconnect with their kids,
Yeah.
unless you start increasing or like increasing the knowledge, the awareness you have about what your child has been through,
Yeah.
you will not be able to reconnect with them that well. So I
Yeah.
always say, ask questions, tell them, look, whatever you remember, even if it sounds horrible, you can tell me. I'm not going to judge you. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
felt things that I don't even know as a parent how it made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important. And I saw it working firsthand with my mother, who was really open and engaged. So
Yeah.
thank you, Mom, for that. I know that's not easy.
That's
Many parents
beautiful.
can't do that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Again, that's a beautiful thing. That says a lot about
Yeah.
why you are the way you are and that sort of thing as well. That's a beautiful thing. I think. But I see that. I think I see that in people, and I see that in Lila as well, and I see that how I've managed to parent from afar with Lila. So everyone's obviously when they come out of court, they want 50-50 and they want all that shared care and that's naturally right. That's so difficult to get, but it's so difficult to get. But when you get it, it's good. But I'm getting it more and more. But I'm also seeing more and more recently some silly reasons like for it not to happen, like literally some ridiculous reasons for it not to happen. But then you say it's ridiculous. It's only ridiculous because it's under the spotlight. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
because when you've got things like when you can't even make a joke about a town like I don't know, there's a town called Basingstoke in somewhere in England, right? When you can't even make a comment, when you can't say to your kids, "Hey, it's boring," you think it's boring Stoke, so we'd call it boring Stoke, yeah. That's not allowed, right? Because it's undermining the mum's family, yeah. So it's like
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the
when you
context
look at
and
it
why
that
you're
way.
saying it. It doesn't have to be bad.
But this is my point. So you can't have humor. You can't. What
Yeah,
was acceptable in a when you were in a
yeah.
relationship, having that sort of humor, having your
Mm,
banter. What was acceptable then, and you're having a normal life and having a joke as much as you can, have a normal time with your kids
yeah,
when you've separated. That then gets turned into you can't do that anymore. That's now
yeah.
abusive.
Look, I am 43 now,
Yeah,
and I think you're close to the same
yeah,
age,
I'm same
right?
age. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So don't you feel sometimes when you talk to parents who are millennials,
yeah,
who are a bit younger,
yeah.
and even young people, teenagers or people that are in their 20s,
Mhm.
I think we might be the last generation that actually grew up without that amount of political correctness. with jokes, any kind of joke. People didn't feel offended. It was normal, you know.
Yeah,
Women
yeah.
didn't stand up and say, oh my God, this is so offensive to women. They were able to understand that people will just talk differently depending on if it's in the pub or in a family setting, or guys, only guys. They would
Mhm.
talk differently about things than only girls. Or so I think that's why we often don't even, I mean, it sometimes even shocks me and it makes me feel sad how quick people are offended and don't understand that certain comments are not against them personally. So then they raise their kids like that, you know, and people are so overly sensitive when they shouldn't even feel affected personally. Young ladies who comment on my page, if someone wants to see it, I mean, on Instagram, I post content daily. It's Jana Coaching, all in one word. And then they come and say things like, it's so awful that you seem to dislike and hate single mothers that much. And I say, when did I say that I hate them? Well, you seem to be so. And I say, look, I was a single mom for 8.5 years. My mother was a single mother for a number of years before she remarried. And we were lucky we had an amazing stepfather.
Yeah.
But we had the experience of her struggling a lot, having a bad relationship, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I say, I don't hate them. I'm just telling you about the statistics, for example. Do you know what statistics mean? You sample, you know, maybe you take 100,000 people, you survey them, you look at certain things, and this is a scientific method these people use. And then you have a number. That means in general, or it means, yeah, this is the number. It's not a personal attack on you.
No.
But then they suddenly say, well, yeah, but I'm a single mom and I'm trying so hard. And I say, yeah, but this wasn't about you.
They make it
So
about them.
nowadays I see that, yeah, I see that really frequently, and it increases with time, that people really can't seem to differentiate something that talks about a phenomena or a tendency in general population and their own personal experience. And I say, look, if I see a post about women that misbehave, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
I
You
don't
get
feel
this. You get
personally
this.
attacked if that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with how I behave. Why should I feel so attacked
Because
personally
they
or
feel attacked.
judged?
They feel attacked, darling. They feel attacked, right? They feel attacked because they know they've got those behaviours in them and they're behaving that way. And that's what you got. I've got people who get complained about. They go around stalk these women. They stalk their ex partners on Facebook or whatever. And because they're putting these posts out about how they're feeling, men are expressing how they're feeling, and they're not mentioning anybody, but it's making them feel better. And they're getting pulled up in court for it. And it's like, why are you stalking him in the first place? And
Yeah.
what makes you think it's about you? Are you behaving that way? That's the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what really is sad, to see that many parents can't let go of that anger or that
Well,
need to be right somehow. And
I'm
often,
11
even
years
if you
now.
bring them the facts, they do that circular argument, always making the argument circle back to them and how they feel and what they need and who was right and who was not. So they make all that drama. And then you think, my God, it's about your kid. Your kid doesn't need all that drama. Your kid doesn't win by you being angrier. And I understand anger, but sometimes that's what's so difficult about being an adult, I think, that you
Yeah,
really need to put things aside and say, look, I hate his guts. I hate my ex. I don't want to see him. I get nervous even when I hear him coming to my house or approaching the door. Okay, but your child is still 50% of that person.
yeah,
And you can't degrade your kids by making them feel so wrong because you say, oh, your dad is an idiot, or I don't like him, or look how rude he was to me today. Of course, your kids are going to say, oh, I'm sorry, mommy. I know. Yeah, then they have a loyalty conflict, and you've created that
yeah,
by
yeah.
not being able to, you know, go to therapy, work on your
Well,
unfinished
it's 11 years
emotional
now.
business, you know?
It's
It
11
can,
years now. It's 11 years. 11 years that me and
yeah,
Lucy. 11 years, and
you
and
see,
and still, it's like, how? Why? You know what I mean? She still can't see it, but
yeah.
that's the thing, and that you just nailed it there. Like she must go round and round in circles. You said it perfectly. She must go round in circles, and it's like
Mm,
that's what they do. That's what they do.
yeah. And I think that's really an inability to have a conversation, even if you disagree, that is rooted in common sense and logic. Today I had this on on my Instagram account. It was a little bit wild, actually. There was this lady who recently set up an account that is called something like Parental Alienation Inquiry,
Hmm.
and everything she posts is a question about parental alienation, about custody, about these things. And she started commenting on my content, saying that parental alienation was kind of a religion and an ideology, that it didn't really exist, that people used it as an industry to make money. And I said, look, I don't mind you commenting on my posts at all. I'm open for discussion. It's all fine. We can also disagree. I said, but I don't like, disrespect or insults or anything. And she said, oh, no, it's fine. I really like the discussion and I would like to know your perspective. Would you answer to some questions to what I post? Maybe then I can have more. I said, look, I don't mind at all. I'll look at your questions. And if I feel like I have an answer, I'm going to give it. So she really started to circle back in this way, saying that, and people, if you know something about how kids can be influenced and manipulated, listen to this. She said, I don't think teenagers should be treated as kids who are like dumb, who cannot have their own opinions. And I said, oh, no, I never said that. My daughter is really smart. She has very strong opinions. She said, yeah, but you can't manipulate teenagers to reject a parent. And I said, oh, yes, you can. And she said, where's the proof? And I said, well, do you know that even adults can be manipulated into cults, into rejecting their whole family? I said, can you imagine a child whose brain is not fully developed, who cannot judge a situation like you would? And I said, do you have kids? And she says, yeah, 3 daughters. And I said, okay, so probably you know, right, that if you would want to, you could manipulate them and influence them with different things. And she said, no. And she said, no. My mom was a mother of 2 kids at 18, and she was a woman, and she was like an adult, and she was smarter than many adults today. And I said, look, that's personal experience. That's anecdotal. That doesn't need to count for the whole population. We're talking in general terms. So she always circled back. She had me with comments and discussion for almost 2 days. I engaged when I had time. And because I don't want to directly dismiss somebody because they might disagree, discussion is healthy if it's civil. So in the end, I said, look, you know what? Why don't you go to this account? It's a lady's account who discovered quite recently that her mom had alienated her from her dad for 20 years, since she was 9 years old.
Is this the one? Is this the young? She's got a YouTube channel. I've reached out to her.
Yeah, Maddie, really nice girl. Really nice girl. Good production. She shares a lot of information. She's very candid about it. She's helped many people already, only talking about her experience because she's not a coach or anything. But she shares it to raise awareness, which is awesome.
Really good.
And I said, look, maybe it would help you to ask this question to this lady because she experienced it herself. And she said, this lady is mentally unwell.
Wow.
She said parental alienation doesn't exist. And I said, look, if we can't have a basis of, logic and decency here, I said, that is really distasteful. I mean, you cannot just say this about a person. you don't do that. I said, you don't even know this person. So I ended up, of course, cutting communication with this person because you can't agree or you can't discuss with people who already refuse to have a logical conversation or to be respectful and open to stuff they might not know. And that I see with a lot of people who come to our platforms who claim to be right all the time. And even if you show them common, facts that I think everyone should know, they say, no, it doesn't exist. I don't think it's true. So, okay, then that is you thinking it's not true. It doesn't mean that's the reality of it. And it is really harmful if people like that, who are not capable of rational discussion, go into family court and claim to be the better parent. I mean, how can you really succeed in any way with people who are wired this way?
Well, you can't, can you? You can't. And I think that
really difficult.
That falls nicely into like, when I'm working with people, I've got these 6 behaviors now that I do. You must have seen them, own your shit, be humble, all that stuff. Yeah. So, when I'm working with people and I'm saying to them, what have you done? Like, literally, tell me what you've done wrong. And if they can't do it, I instantly know that we're gonna have a problem here because that's not you're not human. You're not human. And I was saying to someone the other day in court, I said, you just got to go in there and we talk about owning your shit. We talk about owning it, but now is the time to do it. Now you need to go and do it. They just couldn't do it. They just couldn't bring themselves to do it. And then when I see a little red flag like that, and then I see more red flags, and I see more red flags and more red flags, and I'm like, I don't say anything. I'm not going to. It's not my place to say anything. It's not my place to say any of these things. But it's like I tend to work a little bit differently with them. Because I'm finding myself getting burnt again now by men predominantly coming to me broken in bits, and then getting their strength back, and then just being idiots to me, and for no reason, just because they want to be. Like I had this guy the other week. He's not in court back in court until February, so I've got no work done for him. No much work. People know where I'm at. If you want to book an appointment, there's a link. There's more than enough links around. My phone number's everywhere. Send me a text message. We'll book an appointment. Very cool. But I can't go around calling all my customers doing a 10-minute round robin talk to every single person for every single day.
Yeah.
I'll get nothing done. So yeah, he started being all funny with me. So I was like, stuff that. But I thought also that I thought I reached my levels of being nice, my best levels of being giving love. But now I've realised I can give more love. I've realised that because that's what I'm doing with my platform, my new website that I'm trying to mess around with. That you're gonna have you on there. It's gonna have lots of other people on there that are gonna be offering men's services, and so I'm going to share the love and celebrate anyone really that's trying to help other people, because I think that's another thing that people are doing wrong. You just said a moment ago, you get people on the platform that are probably not right to be doing what they're doing and then claiming and it's but then I'm trying to fight that type of person with love and say, I'll give you the platform, come and help people and let people choose where they want to be and who they want to go with, and they put more people that want to help, the better. But then to give proper, genuine, nice help, not dodgy stuff, obviously. But yeah, I think that's really important as well. And that's another part of. I think that's another thing that I'm working on as well. Yeah, just sort of throw that out there.
It is. I mean, it is. I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to. The thing is, it is complicated to really find people who not only have some experience maybe that is really valuable or knowledge that is very valuable. Not everyone is skilled to help somebody in a setting like coaching or really orienting them or helping them stay on top of things when they have to go to court and manage their own emotions, their family, their friends, their ex, their children, managing their own focus to make sure the legal advice they're getting, maybe yours, for example, they can actually follow through.
Yeah.
So to get people who are skilled to really help support somebody without slipping into things like, because I support you, that means you're always right and I'm only gonna help you vent all the time, doesn't work. People who, I get clients who say, my therapist is awesome, but my therapist doesn't tell me what I could do. They only ask me, what will you do? And I say, I don't know. So if a therapist is not trained or doesn't know about parental alienation, it's difficult for them to help their patients, because of course for them they're patients. For me, my clients are not my patients. I don't work the same way. I'm not a therapist, and I've never claimed to be. So they often tell me, because my therapist works in this way, which is right, they often cannot give me the clues I need. So I really come up with what I want to do now. They stay on a level where it's more about the therapy and me managing my feelings maybe, but not really having a plan and saying, okay, what can I do now? And that's why I always tell people, especially people who write in, who actually email me or ask me through social media and say, look, I've been alienated from my kids. I made a lot of progress. I learned a lot of things along the way. I think it's knowledge that could help others. And I say, yeah, sure. And they say, how can I do what you do? What certification did you get? And I said, look, I don't know of any certification to do something like I do. I didn't get it anywhere because I couldn't find it. So I needed to do my own thing. And somehow it is a skill I have. But I said, look, honestly, maybe your experience is so valuable, you could put it in a book or in a guide, or to just share your story and give people inspiration and motivation with that. Maybe you're not skilled to be a coach, because that's a very specific skill that not everyone has, and not everyone needs to have it, because we're all different. So some people want to help, but I think they're not clear on what kind of help they really can provide. because not
Yeah.
everyone can provide the same type of help. And there is nothing wrong with that, you know?
Mm.
Some people have one talent
Yeah.
and it's not like the other person.
No, I
So
think
it's difficult to get the right people, I think.
it's. I think everyone's. I think everyone's got a stock of value. Does that make sense? Every bad experience that you have,
Yeah.
every single thing that hurt makes you hurt. That gives you kudo points. Does that make sense? It gives you life experience. It gives you wisdom. And it's like, and I think if you can see it as a lesson, because that's what it is. It's all a lesson. You can't. It can make you
Mm,
wise. It can make you stronger, or it can beat you down. And people get beaten down by it, and that's when they want to stay. That's where they stay down, but they don't make progress. And
yeah.
that's why you get the angry ex-partners who stay at the same spot. But and I can see it. I can see it when I've got ex-partner, when I'm working with people who've got both partners are working with each other, and they're both. You can see the journey they've been on. Does that make sense? You can see what journey they've been on, and they're both real. That makes sense. You can see it's a type of behavior. It's a personality type. That's what it is. Because
Yeah.
otherwise there'd be more people like it.
Yeah. I mean, their personality types are definitely relevant, and it helps a lot if you can spot those or understand those a little bit, at least, because
I don't think I can understand them in the detail that people go into in these books and stuff. But I can read the language. I can see it. I can see it with my eyes.
yeah,
I'm like I don't know.
yeah. I mean, um, what you just said about anger, I think we've talked about this before, but we should touch on this today because I see it a lot too.
Go
Um, when people are angry, it is really a big barrier for so many people. And I always tell them, of course, when you're feeling depressed and you can't even talk about it anymore, that's bad. And actually, when you see a scale of emotions, there is this chart, you can get it anywhere on the internet nowadays. And it helps people a lot once they understand anger is an emotion that sometimes you need to go through that state of anger in order to get to something
yeah,
more neutral, where you start feeling less negative emotion, and you can work from a place where it's a little bit easier because you're not under that emotion all the time that drives your choices even, or your tone of voice. But many people say, oh yeah, but my wife tells me I shouldn't be angry. And I say, well, you can't suppress anger all the time. Maybe you need to go through the anger, so then it's done and you can start with something else. But some people stay in that state of anger and bitterness for years.
yeah,
And that's where it gets really, really complicated, because anger is what's driving their choices, the way they talk, the way they walk or show themselves somewhere. So it impacts everybody in such a different way than if they would be, if they were able to let go of the anger, because anger is not constructive, is it?
no. No, not in any way, shape, or form. You thought I was going to say yes. It's definitely not. I was angry for 6, 7 years. I didn't
Mm,
think I thought I was hiding that anger from Lila, but she was picking up on it. And it was only when she said to me in 2020, I think
yeah,
it was 2020. I think we have spoken about this before, when she said about I wasn't angry anymore. And ever since then, I've just let myself go. I've literally just let myself. I've realised that's something that's a positive for Lila. So I've just been like I've focused on that and just absorbed more of it, because that's what but then respecting her boundaries is something I've had to do a lot of, that I've not wanted to, in
yeah,
terms of there's a court order in place. It says equal shared care on it. It says recitals all over it. It says Lila can do what she wants, but it's been made ever so difficult. And it's like, but what's the point of chasing it? And but she's doing so well at school that if I was chasing it and putting her through the courts, then she wouldn't be doing so well at school. So it's like I have to forfeit what I want and my heart wants for what's best for her right now. And I think that's what people forget. People don't always put themselves in that situation, I don't think.
but that's what's most difficult, and what many people forget even in adult relationships, that sometimes it can't be always about what you want,
Yeah.
even if you think that's what you need for yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really needs to be about the kids first, and what you want all the time doesn't matter that much. And in the end, you get a lot of satisfaction of seeing, look, okay, I didn't put myself first here. It hurt me a bit. I didn't feel it was that good. I mean, I would have preferred something different, but I see my kid is so much more relaxed now, or my kid doesn't feel like in the line of fire all the time, like
Yeah.
having to to make the adults feel better in some way, you know, which is what happens a lot when people can't separate and leave their emotional business aside and really do what's best for the kid. That's what happens. That kids, I think if many kids could talk about it freely, which they often can't, they would say, oh my God, could you adults please get along somehow and leave me out of it
Yeah,
so I can be a kid and just be with the both of you? Please leave me alone. I can't stand you people always having trouble. And then I have my conflicts with you and with you. I just want to love you both and that nobody's angry with me.
yeah. That's it, exactly it.
And
It's exactly it. Because like Lila said to me, like she told me she wants to get away from both me and her mum. Like when she wants to, she was thinking of going to
yeah,
university. This was a couple of years ago. You know, she wants to go to university, but doesn't want me around, doesn't want her mum around. Now, things have changed or not, but she may not be moving away at all, which I think is even more a positive thing because she's feeling that comfortable that she doesn't want to move away. Does that make sense? So before she was
yeah,
feeling angry that she wanted to move away and she wanted to go to Edinburgh. Now she's talking about going to like Brighton or staying in London, which is much closer, and so that's again, it's a reflection of how she's feeling, which is a
yeah,
positive thing and not a negative.
it
You know,
is.
and I think that's what we need to remember. I've had less of half of Lila's life with her, less of half of her life physically with her. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah,
like, and so
I look terrible.
yeah. Well, but it's no. So it's just men need to remember that it does hurt. It does hurt, but you don't need that 50. You don't need that 50-50 to make that connection with your child. You don't need that. It's nice to have,
Yeah,
and it's a beautiful thing to have if you can do it. And it should be fair. And it should be equal. It should be, and it should be, presumptuous 50-50. If the parents can't make that work, then the children go into foster care. Yeah, that's how strong it needs to be. I think I've got this thing in my mind where
that's
I keep saying,
awful. That's so awful. Come on.
you know what I mean. But if you need to do something drastic like that to change the parents' perception on what is acceptable. I've got too many cases now still where the mums are saying no, it's implacable hostility. So it's implacable hostility, and that's in court world. That's bad. Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
bad. So when you've got that, and they still think that the children of anyone. Look at my ex-wife, still thinks that her behaviour is acceptable. But and that's because society accepts it, and the law accepts it. It's not illegal. So if you said right, if your parents can't presume 50-50 unless it's criminal, if it's criminal, then it's criminal, and and that means let's be honest, men can't scratch their ass right now without being arrested for domestic abuse or domestic violence. Yeah, and I get there's spectrums and there's severities of it, but there's little bits and then there's but I don't care how little it is. If it's little and it's criminal, then it's criminal, and if it's not, then it's not. Does that make sense? That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
yeah,
And because it's like that. It's like that with everything else. So we're going to go. It should be if it's criminal there. If it's not, then it's family court. And family court should replace a resolution, solution, and love and respect. Yeah, because people should be going in family court and coming out better people. It should be like a church almost, right? It should be like a church.
yeah.
But
But you know what? I heard a judge recently say, look, I had, when I was a judge in family court, a little bit more than 1,000 cases to work on myself. So they nearly don't even have the time, I think, sometimes to dive deeper into some issues and
yeah,
give the parents some insight. They have to move and move and move. And what do you need then? Then you need parents who are so well trained that they know how to make the argument quickly, but reasonable, commonsensical, know if it will be possible, like to go in there directly offering solutions.
no.
And, you know,
No. Don't misinterpret me. Don't misinterpret me. If you didn't have solicitors in family court, right? Didn't have solicitors. If you had mediators replacing the solicitors, and then there's a different conversation. It's a different narrative because you haven't got
yeah,
people driving hate. You haven't got people driving the hate campaign because they want to get paid. So if you had people who were finding solutions and it was solution orientated from the start, from the get go, and the parents knew that if you separate, then it has to be presumed 50-50 because people can't always do 50-50. Not everyone wants 50-50. So some people can't,
no,
and that doesn't suit all families and whatnot for work wise and whatnot. So whatever works, but then if it can't work, then you have to be seen to be able to work together for the sake of the child, show each other respect for the sake of the child, teach your
yeah,
child morals and ethics of that standard, right? But because we don't, and the law encourages it, and the courts encourage it, and solicitors encourage it.
yeah,
That's why you've got what you've got. If you said, right, if you can't do that, we're going to take your kids off you and put them in foster care. they wouldn't. They would either get loads of kids and put them in foster care, which happens anyway, right? So if you're not going to take them from the private law, you're taking them from public law anyway. So they'll make their numbers up somehow. So take them from which way or the other, because that's what they'll do. So if it's going to be easier for them to cull a loads of kids from the start and set a benchmark and say, right, that's what we're going to do, then that's what they should do, right? Because then the parents will be like, right, we've got to change how we do things here, because it's not going to be acceptable otherwise. You're going to get, but that's just in my messed up world. My messed up world.
I mean, no, but you get what I say, right? When I say that's one of the reasons your work is so valuable, because it's not, I mean, tell me if this is so wrong, but I have even posted this on my page and people were like, oh, I don't get what she's talking about, which is okay.
Right.
I said, oftentimes when, for example, a father has to go to family court and the ex doesn't really cooperate, doesn't really look for the best interest of the kids, just as vindictive, for example, and it becomes more difficult. It's not easy to deal with. Sometimes I feel that the legal stuff, the whole legal stuff, doesn't make more than 30% of the whole thing.
It doesn't.
The rest is really your attitude, the information you have, how you're using it, controlling your own emotions, understanding the whole scenario and really what's best for the kids. How would you say can impact the child? Because maybe you're not, look at it from the right angle. If you use a lawyer or not, many parents do better even without a lawyer. If they have, for example, someone like you who trains them a little bit, how do you show up there? How do you talk to the judge? Don't roll your eyes. Don't react impulsively to something they say. They just want to get a reaction out of you, maybe. Stay calm, because if you engage in some bickering and she said, but I wanted, if you go far away, if you have some distance to these people who are arguing, you don't even know who the crazy one is anymore. So don't engage in certain stuff. So that's why it's so valuable, and why I say I think the legal stuff itself, the paperwork, whatever, is only a tiny part. The rest is how you do it, because some parents might have the best legal advice from a McKinsey friend or someone who's experienced in, an expert in that, doesn't need to be a lawyer, or a really, really, really good lawyer who's really hands-on. But if they are not put together and they can't even follow through with what the plan is, because their emotions get the best of them, or they can't stop showing an emotion that comes across as aggressive or too angry or too vindictive, I mean, then you say, yeah, you actually were right, but you didn't play it well.
But this is it. I think you got to realize men come across predominantly when feel that we've been wronged, whether we have been wronged or not, whether we feel we've been wronged. We're going to come off more the bigger we can be, more aggressive. We fight or flight. There's more fighters than there are flighters, and that comes across really bad in family court. But then that doesn't mean you're guilty. It just means you're putting the more probable factors that you probably are guilty. So how you behave, psychology is so huge, is a massive part. The judge said it the other day. We were in court, and I've got this I can't say it has to get kids put out there, but I've got a really big long, like over nearly 2 week finding of facts here and there. I said I can't say it, but I just said it anyway. But like literally, the judge is saying like they want people in court for their specific days of being witnessed. And then she said, "Well, I need to see your body language. I need to see how you behave." And the judge was explaining to her why she had to come into court. And it's like it's all down to psychology. It's down to probable factors. And while this person's kicking off, not wanting to do anything and causing conflict every given opportunity, and this is my client, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like literally, what are you doing? We had a game and literally lost it, went to bits. I understand the reasons why, but I don't accept the reasons why. Yeah. I understand the reasons why, but I don't accept them. I understand, but don't accept them.
So I'm very happy you agree, because some people tell me, no, you're crazy, because they think it all comes down to, do you have the best lawyer or not? And I always say no. Then they say it comes down to who has the money. And I say, look, I've had clients who are former NBA players, people who have a lot of money, people who own multiple businesses and earn 7 figures, that are really well connected, have the best law firm, and still it takes years to get some arrangement that is somehow a little bit suitable or helps him actually see the kids. So no, the one who wins is not always the one who has the best money or the best lawyers. if you really don't pay attention to what's happening there, for example, if you leave it all to a lawyer and say, oh, let him do it, I don't really want to know the specifics, it doesn't work that way. You need to go there and really show that these are your kids and you're capable of dealing with this the best way possible so the kids have the best outcome, that you're not there to fight. You are there because you love your kids. Otherwise, you wouldn't spend the time and the money going there and doing anything. Then you can also stay home and say, look, let her just have it her way, or let him have it his way. I'm just not doing this because it's too much money, too much trouble. And you know what? Sometimes that's even what's best in certain cases where you see she's not really going to help anything, or he's not going to be flexible with anything. And that's when your emotions play a big part, and really stopping and seeing if it's worth it. And if your kids really have a chance to later reconnect with you, if it's even going to be more difficult, if you keep the arguments going, it is really complex, and it hurts to see how some children are already so damaged by their parents fighting in court, having to testify against the other parent, or being told to lie. Many kids are told to lie.
Definitely.
And I've heard 30-year-olds say, yeah, when I was 15, I was forced to write a letter saying that I hate my mother, that I don't want to go see her anymore, but I didn't know what else to do. I was totally forced to do it because they had been coaching me for years into thinking that I needed to do what I was told, So then sometimes, and I tell you one thing, I just had a parent today who said, Jana, I've given up. He wasn't working with me, but he somehow, kept contact through social media, sometimes told me how he was. I asked, how are you? Which I know is good. Some people say it makes such a big difference to have someone actually ask you how you're feeling with all of this. And today he said, I think I give up. I can't take this anymore. What am I doing now? And I said, look, if you need some time, take it. If you need to talk, let's talk. Sometimes that's all you need. And there will come a time where you can actually do some things to prepare yourself for future reconnection. Because the moment is going to come where your kids are going to ask questions. You say you still send them messages, they just don't answer. It's good to know what to send, what not to send. To understand your kids' language and actions. And I have had dads work with me for 6 weeks, preparing for reconnection, preparing themselves emotionally, coming to terms with what has happened so it doesn't ruin their lives. And later when their kids come back, they don't even know how to react. And it all, they lose that opportunity. So sometimes if you need to take some time, take it. I mean, you're a human being as well. If you say, oh, this has been 5 years of litigation, I've lost all my savings, I can't even function in my business anymore. Okay, then you really need to recover now. You're just a human being. So don't blame yourself because you can't take it anymore. Maybe it's the moment to stop for a minute, and then you will see what comes next,
This is it. I think if too many people are too busy worrying about the past, worrying about the past and thinking about what happened yesterday, or worrying about what happened yesterday, worrying about the future, worrying about what's going to come, and worrying about what's going to happen. What if that happens? What if this happens? Just live for today, man. Just live for today. That's all you got to do. You got to just, and it's difficult as it is because the world is set up. The world is set up so you don't live for today. The world is set up to make you worry and to make you fearful of stuff and to make you think that the worst is always going to happen. But if you give yourself to the universe, and the universe will give yourself, will somehow make sure that you're okay. And you've got to find that peace within yourself to do that. First of all, I think you go through.
And you need that peace. You need that peace for yourself.
You do, but
you absolutely need to.
That comes with being not angry. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, and they get ill. People get ill from it. They become depressed from that. They lose the ability to feel any positive emotion, any joy. They lose their current marriage because they have to deal with an ex who is alienating the kids or who won't cooperate with anything. So yes, and this I say to all parents out there going through this, if you have to stop and give yourself a few months to really get some help for yourself, rebuild yourself, and know where you want to go in life from now on, you're going to need to do this anyway if you ever want to be strong enough to reconnect with the kids when the moment comes, or to take some different type of action. But as long as you're angry and feeling horrible that you cannot even live normally anymore, where are good ideas actually going to come from?
Yeah, you're right.
How are you going to find out, oh, actually thinking outside the box, why didn't I try that? Let's try. You're not going to do that if you're permanently feeling, too much negative emotion. Let's call it that.
The thing is as well, that it's about controlling the mind. The mind doesn't control us. Yeah, it's easy. It's right for to say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling down because I'm not seeing my kid. But what makes you feel sad? What is it that makes you, what is it? Why do you have to be sad? Why do you have to be that way? What makes you say that you have to behave that way? It's your mind that says, oh, I'm missing my child. But how does it make you feel? I miss my child. But why do you have to be sad? Because I miss my child, I'm missing the time. But okay, but what is it that makes you physically sad? Why can't you go out and enjoy yourself? Why do I have to go out and self-medicate? My answer was self-medicate. I'm not saying everyone should go out and self-medicate. What I should have done is I should have gone out and found something that I enjoyed. I should have gone out, and what it ended up being for me was helping people, because that's what got me off drinking. I mean, like drinking what I was drinking when I first started going through this, doing what I was doing. That's what got me in a much healthier space. But like, you don't. But we do things because we're auto-tuned, because the media, again, everything's set up to make us design this way. Everything we do, everything we are, is what we have experienced, or what we see as being normal, because it's what we've had in our lives before. So if we've seen...
Yeah, and talking about media, there we go. I mean, how about our kids? Today kids are raised with media in their hands 24/7.
Yeah.
And if you don't put the filters there, if you don't are even closer to your kids in certain days or moments, telling them, hey, you really need to know what that means and what that does to you, and why some kids are so disconnected, can't even speak to their friends anymore. I mean, I don't know how you do this with your daughter, or how she deals with media, with social networks, with a smartphone. I mean, for example, my daughter doesn't have her own smartphone.
I think
She's totally fine with it, but I know other kids do have them.
Mm-hmm.
My clients tell me all the time, oh my God, my daughter is so stressed and she can't focus, and she suffers so much with certain communication she gets from mom, but she's 10. And I'm like, okay, let's be really real here. A 10-year-old, why does a 10-year-old need a smartphone?
No.
How can a 10-year-old actually know when it is unhealthy, when they should leave it? How do you see that? How do you live that with your daughter?
Well, I think I'm lucky, because what I see a lot of is kids now being shut down with just, here, put a tablet in front of them. They're in the pushchair, put a tablet in front of them. Yeah, and they're in the back of the car, give them a tablet, give them Peppa Pig. But what I'm grateful for is that's what Lindsay did to a certain extent. Like, I give her Peppa Pig, blah, 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 give her come and travel, give her whatever. But I didn't use it. I didn't use that stuff. So I was always talking and engaging with her. So what I've seen with Lila now is that she's studying, she's reading books. She's on social media, but she's reading books. I'm like, what the fuck are you reading books for? I thought you'd be doing all of it. I'm not ungrateful. I'm grateful, yeah. But like, I send her stuff. I send her like psychological stuff. I send her stuff I'm talking about, like sensible stuff, like about equality for men and women.
Side of you. Yeah. Oh, there you are. I lost you for a tiny moment.
Okay, sorry, but basically I was saying I share little bits of social media with Lila, like about positive things, yeah, like for men and women, and how women should behave and that sort of stuff and that sort of thing. And it's like, she doesn't look at them always, but I'm so pleased that she's asking for money. She's asking for money for a book, and she's showing me this whole massive bookshelf that she's got, and it's all full of books, and she's just reading loads of books. And it's like, I don't know how she can read so fast, but she says she reads them, and she can read a book within a week. And I'm like, really? I can't.
Awesome.
I don't know how. I'm not. I mean, I'm not a big reader, so I listen. That's what got me listening. That's got me listening to books again. But like, because the books are important. They're knowledge and all that sort of stuff. And I think not only that, you've got what they're teaching them at school. You've got to go out and do your own research anyway, and you've got to go educate yourself anyway. And what I'm really pleased with Lila with is that she's English and business studies, which was my sort of thing at school and whatnot, and drama was it. But Lindsay, she couldn't do the drama, but English, she's doing really well in English. She's doing really well. So that's positive as well. So everything's really positive with her. Everything's really good.
That's I think that's beautiful.
I think
really cool.
I think that's brilliant. And now that's just the thing, is I'm now teaching that to other people to make sure they can get that same sort of shit, to make sure they're going for that same sort of because it doesn't just end in family court. Does that make sense? It doesn't just your job's not just done when you're in court. It's just not finished there. It's not. You've got 18 years of this. 18 years of living with a crazy, or not living with, dealing with the crazy ex-partner. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I always say, actually, kids, if they have one parent that actually teaches them certain things that can really give them tools to get through the next stages of life with confidence and to understand how certain things work in society, these commonsensical rules that actually we were taught from a young age just naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And today you see kids that don't even know any of them because all they look at is social media and things that are actually not real, and they start doubting themselves. Or my daughter once said, "Oh, when you gave me your phone yesterday because I wanted to look something up," because of course she can do that. If she says, "Hey, can I look something up? I'm sewing these puppets," and she does a lot of crafts. She fabricates amazing stuff. She
Mm-hmm.
produces so many things in a
Yeah.
month. So sometimes she wants to watch a tutorial or somewhere who explains the materials that she's gonna need, and then she asks me like, "Can we order this or buy somehow?" So she told me like, "Look, I saw this video pop up and I watched it on your Instagram, and this lady was talking, this young lady was talking about intrusive thoughts." And then I was like, "Look, I know nowadays they make a big deal of all of this, but we all have negative thoughts that just pop up in our minds, and that's not anything intrusive. It's nothing to be worried about. You're gonna have thoughts that are awkward. You don't need to be scared. It's just like the positive thoughts. You can have both. Don't worry about that." And then she said, "Yeah, that's what I thought. It sounded a bit awkward. Like, is that not normal?" And I said, "Yeah, it is normal, but you see how people already make a big deal out of it, and then you have teenagers being worried about having intrusive thoughts." So if you have an iPad raising your kid instead of you explaining anything to them, I think that's super dangerous. And also, and I really want to make this point, and if anyone here is a parent listening, I suppose you are, please comment and tell me if I'm right here. I have these neighbors here in the village where I live. They have a 10-year-old daughter who has her own phone.
Yeah.
So she ended up having the numbers of certain people in the village, older guys that gave her the numbers, and she kind of didn't know how to react and thought she needed to be polite and say, "Okay, so I'll give you my number too." That, of course, all happened, she being unsupervised, sitting in the front porch and people approaching her. And later they told me, like, "Oh my God, I see your daughter doesn't have a phone. We don't know sometimes how to do it." And I said, "Look, why could these older people be talking to her after dinner when it's dark outside and you guys didn't even know?" These people were talking to her, telling her to come outside of the house. And I said, "Because she has her own phone, and that phone has replaced you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have to call the house phone or call you and say, 'Can I talk to Maria?' And you would say, 'No, it's 10 p.m. My daughter is 10 years old. Who the hell are you? And why are you calling here? And who are you actually? Why do you want to talk to my daughter at this hour?' But you eliminated the parents, so now this child is getting calls and messages from people the parents weren't really aware, and it started to get a bit worrying. And I know because this girl then told my daughter, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, these guys are talking to me, what should I do?" And my daughter was a bit alarmed and came to me and said, "Oh my God, like, you think, mommy, that it is so safe that this girl has her own phone?" And then I told the parents, I said, "Look, just so you know, she confided in my daughter. She said she was worried. She didn't know how to say no because she feels she's unpolite if she says no to things." And I said, "Maybe you should have a look. I don't know. Do you actually know who she's talking to?" And they actually didn't know who this girl was talking to half the time. And I said, "Well, that's because she has a phone." And they
Yeah, well,
had
this is
trouble
it.
to
You're taking away,
understand the
taking, yeah, yeah,
connection.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they said, "Yeah, because we see your daughter, she seems so mature, and you can see she's so respectful and she has boundaries." And I said, "Yeah, but she doesn't have a phone.
yeah. This is
People
it.
cannot just talk to her without me knowing. She cannot receive invitations at 10 p.m. from guys who tell her, 'Oh, just come out and we take a walk.' Like, they have to come to my house if they
That's
want
it.
to
That's
talk
it.
to my
Yeah,
kid."
yeah, yeah. That's good.
Is
That's
that
good.
is that so wrong? I mean, I don't
No, that's
think
not wrong. That's not
that
wrong.
was
That's not
normal
wrong.
when we were kids.
No, that's not
And
wrong.
this
That's good.
also, yeah, and I think kids know when you are there to vet people. My
Yeah,
daughter says, "Oh no, I think it's cool that you and my dad protect me and
yeah,
show me who's a good person, who's to be trusted, and who's maybe not to be trusted, and how to react when someone is a stranger, but they
yeah.
kind of want to make friends with you, and then you're like, this person is 20 years old. Why does he want to be my friend? Does he not have friends his age?" So if you don't teach any of that anymore and don't have these conversations, and you let a phone
So
spend
then the
so much
conversation's for
time
it.
with
Yeah,
your kid, I mean, this is worrying. It is really worrying that many parents don't make that connection anymore.
because they're sheep. Because they've got one, and it keeps the kids, and it keeps the kids quiet. It keeps the kids quiet, and
Oh
they're
yeah,
doing it. They're swallowing themselves. They're just swallowing along themselves. That's because the system's got hold of them, and that's what it is. I can lose. I can quite easily lose an hour or 2 hours scrolling, if I don't pull myself out of it. Because you see some good shit on there. I mean, I saw that girl you talked about. I saw her on YouTube. First saw her on YouTube, and then now she's
yeah,
flashing up everywhere. So it's like, but there's some really good stuff out there. Some really good quality stuff out there. But you can lose yourself. But likewise, that good quality stuff, there's equally some like I've got some bloke calling me. He says he's from. Oh, do you know I got scammed? I got scammed. I got scammed at £20,000 last year. They've obviously got my details on it. So it says it's from Tesla. They said they're from Tesla, calling me, and I'm like, "Why do you keep calling me?" I said, "No, if you're Tesla, tell Tesla I don't want to buy your shit." And it's like, but they keep calling me. So equally, the scammers think that, and I've been naive to it, so I can't say people are stupid. The naivety to it, they're out to get. There's equally good people. There's bad people. Imagine this. Imagine this as
yeah,
well. Imagine this as well, right? There's bad people out on the streets, right? On the streets and physically in front of us or by our sides. Imagine what there is like on the other end of the phone on the internet. Does that make sense? So, do
yeah,
you know what I mean? Much worse. Much worse.
yeah. And actually, my daughter doesn't have her own social media or anything, but I did set up an account because she does crafts. So she likes to take pictures of the
Yeah.
crafts
Yeah.
and post them because she follows people who do crafts as well.
Yeah.
So artisans and artists.
ASMR,
So
ASMR, whatever it lies. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So she just wants to know, oh, look, this material they're using here. Maybe I could use that too. Or, oh, I got an idea. I see this guy doing these drawings that are really cool. So she's just into stuff and it's fine. But I, of course, manage that account. It says nobody sees a picture of her. Nobody knows that it's a 14-year-old that is using it. But
Mm-hmm.
only when she asks for my phone, then she can scroll and save stuff and blah, blah, blah. So even she tells me, oh, mom, see the DMs of the account I have for the crafts? There is all these girls advertising their pictures that are kind of,
Wow.
I'm not going to say the word. I don't want any platform to ban us. Like all this corn stuff,
Yeah.
replace the C for a P.
Yeah.
And she says, oh my God, why do I get this? So they don't even know if it's an adult or a teenager
Wow. They're
using that
still
account.
coming in.
It's an account about crafts and
Wow.
she still gets all that random stuff, like 4 every week. You can't stop it. So
No,
can
I've
you
got it comes
imagine if
from
the
yeah.
12-year-old and says, oh my God, what did I do? Why do I get this stuff? Maybe if the kid is for some reason curious because maybe she heard her friends talking about the stuff, then she wants to see if it's really that bad, or
Yeah.
I want to see what it is before I show my parents, or
Mm-hmm.
then they feel embarrassed and they don't say anything. And then they're getting bombarded with that really unsuitable stuff. So I only can tell parents out there, it's not that bad to tell your child, no, you
Yeah.
can't have this, or no, you're not allowed to use this.
Yeah. It's the
You got to be aware of what your kids are doing.
and this takes it back to a family law point. This takes it back to family court, right? It takes it back to family court, right?
Yeah,
Because if you can't be child focused, if you can't be that child focused, and you can't make that difficult decision to do that difficult thing for the right reason, then what chance have you got for getting 50-50 if you can't see or doing what's right in the eyes of the court?
yeah,
Because that's why that's why these little decisions, that they might be little in the eyes of the big world and the normal world, but they're little, but they're big, if that makes sense, because they've got they're big implications. So if you can't make a difficult little decision, right? So if you're in family court, you've got to make difficult decisions. They're difficult decisions, yeah. But
yeah,
there's difficult sacrifices to make. There's difficult compromises to make, right? But if you can't make them compromises there in that environment, what chance have you got to make them in a different environment where it's hostile and all that sort of stuff with your ex-partner?
Yeah. And also, if we go into the context of family court, what oftentimes baffles me still, although I know it happens, but it still makes me a bit, I don't want to say angry, but it catches my attention
Mm-hmm.
when you see a parent fighting for the right to have sole custody of a child, even though the other parent is just fine, but they seem to be so interested in the other parent not having any say, or worried about, the way dad parents. Maybe he just has a different parenting style and they
Mm-hmm.
find so many things wrong with it. But then they give the 13-year-old a phone, and the 13-year-old is posting bikini pictures and getting approached by hundreds of adults from all around the globe, So how is this consistent? How can you be so concerned about dad's parenting style just because he maybe has a different way than you of doing
Probably a bit more
things,
disciplined.
or lets them watch the movie for a bit longer, or gives them different food, and then you're neglecting your child in that department where adults have access to your 13-year-old
Yeah.
posting bikini pictures in a public profile. So
Yeah.
I think people really lose
Vision.
perspective,
Yeah.
absolutely lose vision, and don't even see how inconsistent they are.
No, don't.
It's the same as these people. I just talked to a client of mine today. He told me, like, can you believe 2 years ago, mom accused me of wanting to molest my daughter, accused me of wanting to assault her, and put a protection order on me. It's all unfounded, never happened. I wasn't even living in the same state.
Yeah.
But now she has no problem letting my daughter spend Christmas with me, like 2 weeks in my home. Like, how is this consistent? How can a judge actually not say, look, lady, this is a bit inconsistent. Like, if you are so worried about him and make these kind of accusations, and then you let the daughter just have visitation with him, like, you're actually admitting that you're either lying or incredibly neglectful. So, are you really able to make sound decisions
This is it.
for this,
This is it.
you know? So, and I really get triggered sometimes a little bit in my response when I think, well, yeah, they actually should see that and stop these things right away because they don't make any sense and they let it slide.
They don't let it slide. They don't let it slide. They do let it slide. They do let it slide. They it doesn't go. I think it doesn't go. I mean, I've got a couple of cases now where, and don't get me wrong, we've jumped through loads of hoops. We've done stuff that people probably wouldn't do. Yeah, we've been patient as hell, and it's been difficult being patient as we have been.
Yeah.
But we're getting to the point now where there's going to be community service or unpaid work done on the other side, and they're probably going to end up with a child in two cases now. A child permanently being in our care, spend time with us. No, spend time with mum and live with dad, and unpaid work being done on mum's side. Potential psychological assessments as well. Because I'm being a bit more brutal now. I'm being a bit more like I'm not doing it for the being nastiness. I'm not doing it to be nasty. I'm doing it because if I see a problem, if I see something that's a bit of a head case, I'm like, we need to act on that because I didn't act on it for myself in my own personal situation, and I see other people's situations where we've not acted on it, and it's ended up we should have done things a lot sooner. So we're just doing it. That comes with time. That comes with time. That's experience. That's just experience of that, isn't it? That's just experience, I suppose. But I think it's weird. It's weird because there's a small contingent of people that are changing that are workable, yeah, that do adapt and they do change through the course of the process. But there's a smaller minority of people that don't change at all. They just dig their heels in, and then they dig their heels in, and they're like literally not moving. And then it's just like,
Yeah.
what's the
And
point?
it's actually outrageous how, and I really have to say it, I know there is also fathers who are awful in family
Oh
court
yeah,
trying to destroy their ex-partner. I'm not saying that doesn't happen,
yeah,
but I see that in society in general, in Western countries now, in many of them, and also in the family court system, and I see it with my clients from the States, from the UK, from Canada, from any place, when they let something like that slide, when the mother first says, oh, he abused me, oh, he wanted to rape me, oh, he wanted to this, he wanted to that, but then, oh, it didn't work, nobody believed me, this whole thing was dismissed, so okay, now I'm going with the visitation schedule and I'm just letting it happen. So that actually shows if the court does nothing, doesn't punish her for lying, doesn't make her, force her to take any accountability,
Yeah.
That's like officially accepting that this mother just was moody, just tried something. So they're actually accepting her bad behavior,
Okay. Well, the argument for
encouraging
this,
bad behavior, which is
the,
awful.
my justification for this, like, 'cause I've often thought like this. My theory is, and I've got things that back it up. Basically, there's someone who's always going to be seen as the perpetrator, and someone who's always going to be seen as the victim. Yeah, so a victim perpetrator.
Yeah.
So whoever's
Yeah.
the aggressor, whoever's deemed as the aggressor, and it's 9 times out of 10, 97% of the time it's men. Whoever's deemed as the aggressor is the person who is book phone at them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, 97% of the time it's the man. If when the woman is the victim, or whoever the victim might be, you get a certain amount of dispensation, you get a certain amount of allowance of being to protect yourself. You're allowed to protect yourself a certain amount back. So you get a certain amount of, well, she'll protect herself. You did this and this to her, so then she's done X, Y, and Z to you. So that's why we can't understand why she would do
Yeah.
that. So does that make sense?
But
Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, I understand what you say, and it does make sense. But overall, if you look at it, it is actually not acceptable that oftentimes they continue to treat women as if they were not capable of being consistent enough. So, well, when they're inconsistent, we just let it slide. And I mean, I have had clients who were men. They even were arrested when it was her choking the child. But because they were there, they were arrested.
This is
Can you imagine that?
the stats back up.
So,
The stats back up for when you got gay relationships, two men in a relationship. If police get called out, then the statistics show that both men will get arrested. Both men will get arrested. If it's a man and woman, then the man will just get arrested.
yeah. And you have this, I mean, there is countries where they literally have protocols for when domestic violence happens, or things of that nature. And for example, I grew up in Spain. I love Spain. It's the only country I sometimes miss because I just love the Mediterranean. I grew up there. I have friends there. And one thing I feel terrible about is that right now, if I would live in Spain and I would have a son,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to leave because they have some of the most anti-men and anti-father laws on the planet. So
Well,
just for people to get it into context, imagine you would live in Spain with with your intimate partner, wife, or whatever, even if it's a formal girlfriend, you're living together and you have a child. And one day she goes to the police or to the next place. They have different places that are not even police stations where you can report these things. And she only has to say, look, my boyfriend insulted me, shouted at me. It doesn't even have to be he slapped me or he pushed me against the wall. No, it can only be verbal or he shouted, whatever. I want to report this. So they're going to initiate the domestic violence protocol. And that protocol will do the following. They will go search for you wherever you are. If at work, they will get you wherever you are, take you into custody, put you into a cell for 2-3 days until a quick trial happens where you're basically there to just be punished, even if you haven't done anything. No evidence is required of her whatsoever.
well,
They will punish you. You don't have access to your child anymore. She is allowed to get divorced like super quickly. You will have to leave the house, even if it's a house that is yours, because it's your child's house. So until your child is 18, you're going to be paying for this house if it's not
wow.
completely paid yet. She can remain there with your child, and she can even move in her next boyfriend, and you're paying for that place. But you're not allowed to see your child anymore because she can say, well, I'm a victim of domestic violence officially. So you're in a list of victims of domestic violence in Spain, which means she gets payments every month. She
Wow.
gets free stuff for her and her kids. They're going to get a free place at university, free things. She's going to get free sessions in
They're just
groups
killing
that
men
are
on it.
for
It's killing men
women
off.
who are victims of domestic violence. She's going to be able to go there and get support and therapy and everything. So she gets a lot of advantages for being on that list, let's
Wow.
say. I'm just putting it that way. So the thing is, then he can get a lawyer if he even gets a good lawyer. The justice system in Spain is so slow that it can take more than a year to
Wow.
get this thing done. And even if he's officially officially found non-guilty and she lied, like they can prove, you can prove she lied,
Yeah.
she was going to still be in the list of victims of domestic abuse. So
Anyway.
she's still going to get all these benefits, and no punishment is going to be there for her because she lied. But then because you were found innocent, they're going to say, okay, so now we can request, you know, that you have to see your child again because this was all a lie. But 2 years have passed where you didn't see your child. And now the system is going to say, well, it would be traumatic for your child right now to suddenly have to see you again because they didn't see you. So, oh, so that would be traumatic, but separating me from my child because of lies she put out, that was not traumatic. So how the hell now they will put you in visitation with a supervisor because you're now, you know, not to be trusted yet. The child has to somehow get used to you again. So you're basically treated like a criminal.
That's not right.
But she still gets all the benefits she was getting, including the monthly money for being an official victim of domestic violence. So all the institutions that are there to give them these services to these women. And I tell you, if you're in a gay couple, two men, the protocol doesn't work. If it's two lesbians, it doesn't work. It only works if it's a woman that denounces a man.
Wow.
So if you would go with your head all swollen up because she hits you with a baseball bat every day, which, I mean, let's be truthful, it happens a lot. One in 4 victims of domestic violence are men. So if you would go there and say in Spain again, look at me, I can't take it anymore. All neighbors know it, you know, I feel horrible. I have all the evidence. I take pictures every time she does it. I just don't hit back, you know. 9 out of 10 times when a man goes with that, the police officers tell them, dude, please don't do it because the protocol of domestic violence doesn't apply to you. You would have to report it just as a normal aggression, just like you would if you would report someone on the street who hit you. And you know what? If you do this now and we take the report, she's going to come tomorrow and accuse you and she's going to win.
Wow.
So you're going to end up in jail. So please, dude, solve it somehow, leave the house, do whatever, but don't do this. So 9 out of 10 times, they go home.
That's messed up.
That's really nasty, if you ask me. And the police officers, I even can understand them, that they know what is going to happen to him if he does it and she finds out. She's going to get notification that he just reported the aggression.
Wow.
And then she's going to go and say, no, it's not true. I just reacted because he's the one hitting me. But there is no evidence needed. For women, you have that protocol.
Imagine that.
So it is, yeah, so it is discriminatory to gay people, to lesbians, and to men. Wow. It only works for women, you know? And even catcalling. I mean, yeah, and now they have another law. Now they have another law in Spain, which is you cannot, you know, like aggression against women on the street. So you could say, hey, beautiful, to a lady in Spain. And if she perceives it, it's down to her own criterion perception. If she perceives it as violence, like gendered violence, she can go and report him for doing that on the street.
Wow. No.
Isn't that horrible?
That's mental. That's mental. That's where we're going. That's where we're going. That's where we're going to go. That's the way we're going. That's the way it's heading.
So I don't want my daughter to grow up with that, you know. Imagine what she would think if she had a brother and this can happen to them like any day.
That's ridiculous.
Sorry, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I was just thinking, like, so what happens when these women in Spain have boys? Surely they would think, well, if I'm going to do this to their dad, this is going to happen to my boy.
I don't know what they think, but of course there is women who go and report violence because it actually happens. Of course, we have a lot of cases, but even in the media, you know, they are told that violence against men, you know, that doesn't happen. The aggressor is always a guy. They are told that false reports are almost non-existent. Like, come on, they're almost non-existent. But later you see, yeah, actually there are more false reports than the media is willing to tell them. So
Well, I
I don't
think
know what I would do. I would, of course, think about my boys as well if I had boys. It turns out I don't have any. But the friends that I have who still live there who have boys, it's like, come on, living in that country as a man, you're already, potentially in danger all the
why does
time.
anyone want to get married? Why does anyone want to get married? Why would you even get into a relationship? Like I don't want. I never want to get into a relationship. I'm comfortable in my own space, whatever. Yeah, I don't ever want to get into a relationship again ever. And it's like friendships, whatever. I'm fine with that, but I don't. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, why do people celebrate getting married? They celebrate getting married. Why do men celebrate that? Why are you celebrating that? It doesn't make sense.
Well, nowadays there isn't much of an incentive anymore for men to get married. It was different decades ago, but right now, there isn't much of an incentive for it anymore. I mean, and many men are scared. I mean, I hear it from many guys also commenting on my content. I pay a lot of attention to comments because I think what people think or ask is really valuable
Hmm.
information also to help others. And they often tell me, like, look, I'm 30 years old, I'm successful at my job, I have my own home, I have my own car, I can go on a vacation. Why should I make my life more complicated getting married and having kids if I know she can divorce me, take half my money, my savings, take my kids, and people are even going to say, you go, girl, well done. And he says, I just have seen too many horror stories. They say, I'm not going to get married. And it's also very sad how they're opting out of that because of these reasons.
Yeah.
So, what should we do? Eliminate non-fault, no-fault divorce. So you can't just get divorced because you're not happy now, or because people argue about that a lot. Like, oh, it's about your happiness. I think people just have a different concept of marriage nowadays. My
No,
grandma
no.
knew that marriage wasn't about her happiness, it was about the family.
Back in the
And
day,
if
I think,
she had she didn't expect the same things people expect today, but she was married 60 years and
I
they were
think,
happy.
I think generationally, we're the same generation again, aren't we? Yeah. So our parents were the last parents from probably going into war or whatever. So it was pre our parents. My grandparents were at war, so the family values meant so much more. And then they had because there was less. I think people were going to church more. People had religion. People had religion. That was obviously something there, and people knew their right places. Shall I say right? Their right places in terms of well, women were homemakers and having babies, they're for making babies, and then we're going out and making money and feeding the family. Things evolved, things evolved, and things changed, but the things and women take less responsibility, and they go out and get a job, which is fine. They want equality, that's good. But then the man still has to go out and do the work and then give everything up for the woman afterwards. So we then lose.
Well, that is, yeah, that is exactly how it is. And many people get super angry when you say this. I have women all the time saying, like, what do you want us to go back to the 50s where the women couldn't have jobs? And I was like, look, actually it's really wrong. It is not wrong, it is harmful if you don't understand what things mean. And my grandma, for example, they tell me, oh, don't take her example. Well, then let me take the example of my uncle, which is not that long ago. He still was married to the girlfriend he had when she was 17 and he was like 21 when they met. She was a virgin, family oriented, nice girl. All she wanted was a healthy family because she had a stepmother who was bad. So it was a really sweet lady. All she wanted was to be a lovely mother, to have a better family than she had. She admired her future husband a lot. He was a really responsible guy, intelligent, capable of working and creating resources, and of course willing to share them with her. And that's what she knew and that's what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew from the beginning, and I had a good relationship with my aunt. And I said to her, oh my God, you and my uncle, you have such a nice marriage. And are you happy this way? Because she never got a job. She was a homemaker. She always made the house look amazing. When you visited them, you always felt so well, almost like in a wellness place.
Yep.
She had
Yep.
everything on point. She knew when to bring you a tea, or amazing homemaker, really sweet, nice lady. And he was the one bringing in the money, organizing a lot of things. And the only thing she said is, you know what? I never felt overwhelmed like other women who have jobs, who have careers. I never had problems that I took home, and I felt happy. So that was our arrangement. It worked very well for us. They could afford holidays and stuff. They had a really loving household. I mean, of course, not perfect, like, everyone has problems, but I never saw them having these quarrels because she feels she needs time for her career as well, or because she now has to do what her boss says, but she can't do what her husband maybe would like. So they never had these conflicts, and she was much more balanced and overall content than my mother, who was, twice got the wrong guy because she was a feminist. She thought her independence and making money was important. So she always attracted the guys who said, oh, okay, you don't need my money? Cool. I don't need even to pay you anything for my kids. Cool. You don't need me to marry you because you will give me sex anyways. Cool. And she always had these guys until she realized, oh, actually, this was, not so good. And then, well, luckily she found a really nice guy and she got married, and then they both worked and they had a very loving relationship. But she always said, you know what, my brother and his wife did it better. They never had these issues, and they remained married until he passed. Sadly, he passed too soon. He was just 62, I think, and he had an illness and he passed. But I mean, when I tell women, yeah, actually, it doesn't mean you're not working. My aunt had a job. The payment for that job was having a family, having a house, not having to worry about any bills.
Yep.
That was her salary for that job that she did, which was being on top of everything, having all the appointments in her head and written down, taking care of also things he needed to be more successful, taking care of the household, taking care of the kids, helping them with homework. That was a full-time job.
Yep. This is it. This is it. This is it. Now the thing is as well, you said something really powerful there as well. You said that she only slept with one person. She only ever slept with him. She only slept with him. So that was the other. Yeah. So she only slept with him. So therefore, it's this stats that again that show that if these women if men as well, if they slept with more than one woman or than one person, then that increases the chances of divorce.
Risk of divorce. And of dissatisfaction, also of dissatisfaction in the relationships.
Because they're comparing.
Yeah. And I remember my mom once told me that her sister and her, when they were like 19 years old or 20, they both had studied something, had jobs. And of course, it was also that time, in the 70s, if you wanted to be modern, most likely you were going to be a feminist to some degree because it kind of came in the package. So they talked about their jobs, about feminist issues, about leveling, because at that time it still was a little bit like to make it fair, that if a guy can get a job, I should be able to get it too without my dad's permission. So that all made sense. So you can have the choices. And when they were young, they kind of made fun of their brother's girlfriend who wasn't that interested in that stuff. And she just was, to them, in their eyes, she was like, oh, she wanted to go dancing. She was interested in buying a new dress. She just said, oh, to her boyfriend, like, whatever you want. Okay, you need me to wait here for 2 hours because you have to go sort some stuff out. Okay, I'll wait here. So she wasn't combative. She was very agreeable. And they both thought like, oh my God, my brother was this girlfriend, she seems like so brainless, like she hasn't got an opinion. But actually, it wasn't that she didn't have any opinion. What she wanted was a family. She loved that guy.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any, she didn't think she needed to go make money to somehow be more valuable. So somehow she understood that that's not what he needed from her. And she didn't need that either. She was happy with him. And they had a really successful, very harmonious marriage for many years. With my grandparents, it was already a notch harder because they were post-World War people. They ended up with nothing. They needed to build up from nothing. They worked very hard. And to say that my grandma, for example, as a housewife, didn't have a job, she worked in the vegetable garden. She knew how to preserve and can all the food, process it all for the winter. She had 4 babies by the time she was 23. She washed all their diapers that were made out of cotton and sanitized them all day, with boiling water, did everything by herself. And my grandpa had 2 jobs. So they both worked really hard. And to say that being a housewife in the 50s was like not working, yeah, she was working more than women who go to an office job
Of
8
course,
hours a day, you
this is
know?
it.
And
Yeah,
they had a really successful marriage. And I once asked my grandma, like, was it difficult when you were younger, maybe, and busy all the time? And she said, look, there were batches of a few years where I wasn't happy, where I was frustrated. Your grandpa as well. But it didn't matter. It wasn't about me, 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 me. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. He's not taking me out for dinner. Or, oh God, we're not having that passionate relationship right now because we're taking care of the kids. They didn't think that way. They were happy to have enough to feed the family. So the kids were having a happy childhood, and they raised four great people, who
yeah,
all were functioning well in society, all had an education, all had more than they had when they were kids.
that's
And
it.
that was the goal. They were
That's
not
it.
about me, me, me. So now you see people getting divorced, and I have seen this, women commenting, admitting it, saying, well, I just wasn't happy anymore. Well, I just got bored, so I cheated.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I just made more money than him, so why do I need him? Okay, so what is he to you? Only a wallet? So when you have more money, you don't need him anymore in the first place? Like, I think the concepts are not being understood the same way they were.
yeah, yeah,
And many women don't know that actually being a homemaker full time today, it's even easier because we have washing machines, we have all that stuff that makes it much
yeah.
easier.
Everything,
But
everything makes it easy. Everything, yeah. That takes.
yeah, but it's not bad. It's not bad to say, I want to be a mother and a wife, and that's what I want. So the bad thing is, now that we have the choice, they vilify women who want that. Like, oh, that's because you're stupid or something, that you don't want to go there and work. And no, having a job doesn't make you a better woman. You
No.
can choose. You should be able to choose
Of course you should. Everyone should have the choice. It's a freedom of choice.
and
Freedom.
be respected. So yeah, I understand why some men say, look, what can I have if I get married? If I tell her that it would be cool if she's the homemaker and I work, she's gonna call me a misogynist or something. Like, oh, do you
I
want me
get
to
called.
be
Yeah,
financially dependent on you? If I say no, I just want to make your life more beautiful so you don't have to deal with the boss and with work. Oh no, but I want to do that because I went to university, so now I need to work. Like, okay, but if we want kids, who's going to take care of them? Oh, put them into daycare. Really? Like, is it always better? I don't think so.
but this is leads me to the next point. It's like I don't think there's anyone ever who's in a wholly happy relationship. I mean, if it's so easy to go into family court now and women to like say to women to just make up anything and just say anything they want to say, and then go through the hell of it afterwards. It's just pointless. It's
Yeah.
headache and it's too
And
easy. It's too easy. People
yeah,
family sort of if people feared family court in the way that they fear criminal court, mind you,
oh yeah.
people fear family court. They do fear family court, but I don't fear family court anymore. It's just like a day in the park for me. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not like I used to be like all scared about it all. Now I'm like it's nothing anymore. It's work, but I see
Yeah.
how people because it's ingrained in our heads and it's court, it's scary, it's court, it's all scary. Just a judge, it's scary, but it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all.
But you think, if for example people knew that making a false allegation suddenly of abuse or something, because your lawyer maybe even encourages you to say certain things or to get a protection order, because they do, and I've heard
Yeah,
them
yeah, yeah,
themselves
they
admit
do, they
into
do.
it. So
Yeah,
let's not be, sugarcoat anything here. um so if people knew that if they make a false allegation, for example, and they are caught, and we can see that it wasn't true, that it was totally unfounded, that they would face prison time for
that'd be
accusing that person of something. I think they would be much less fast
mate.
in using those tactics if they knew there is a direct consequence. Like, oh, you accuse him of abuse? Okay, so if it was true, he would have gone, I don't know, 2 years to prison or 1 year or whatever. So now you're going to go and do that jail time because you accused him of a crime he didn't commit. They would be less fast in doing that, I think.
Absolutely.
But there is often no consequence. Like, there is no social repercussion. When it used to be shameful and society would put you in check and say,
Yeah,
look, dude, this is totally unacceptable. You don't do this to the mother of your kids. Like, come on,
yeah,
behave. People used to do that, to tell
yeah.
people this is wrong. Or if a
That
mother
there's
was maybe disrespecting the father just because she doesn't get people would tell her, like, come on, this is not healthy for the kids, please stop it. Mothers would tell their daughters, don't do this, please respect your children, you know, work it out with your husband, don't make a fuss here. But today there is no keeping in check socially anymore. You rarely see it, I think.
People get wrapped, kids are wrapped up in cotton wool. I think trauma is not good. I think trauma is not good, but a certain amount of trauma is okay. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you've got the right amount of love, as long as you've got the right amount, as well as you've got the right amount of love to make it all better, to patch up afterwards as well.
But yeah, what I think is it's not really trauma what is needed. I think the word is really to, if you don't have that repercussion, which is other people's reaction, and that they all agree that something is unacceptable and make you aware of it. So you have that shame of, well, yeah, really, yeah, it's true. I'm misbehaving. Maybe I should really stop doing that,
For
or I
two
will
ways, both
lose
ways.
all my
Yeah.
reputation. You know, people are not going to support me doing that crappy stuff.
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I absolutely agree with what you're saying as an adult, being shameful in society and that sort of stuff. But in the same way, what I'm saying is like, it's the same adults that are doing that you describe. It's the same adults that you're describing that are wrapping those kids up in cotton wool, and the kids are growing up thinking that that's exactly how it needs to be, and anything I want, I get, and you know, it's just again, we're pandering to like babies. We're pandering to making. Look, I'm not being funny.
Yeah.
Most of these stuff that I see on in like music industry now is like all messed up. It's messed up everywhere. It's just messed up everywhere. Everything's messed up, and it's all done aimed at influencing the next generation of children. And when kids get put into school, that's when they get indoctrinated. That's when they start getting down the road of That's when they lose their imagination. As I said, put that they lose their imagination when they go into school, because when you go before school, you're making mud pies. You want a horse, and you remember you've got imagination and that sort of stuff. When you go to school, you're sitting down, stand up, that's when you start getting ready to go to work. So it's like you have to sit down, you be quiet, put your hand up, and they mock you. Other people mock you. People at school mock you for having an imagination, having an invisible friend, having someone who it comes to school with you, and you get mocked for it. So your imagination is knocked out of you, because I think that when you're younger, you've actually got more chance of seeing spirits or souls are around there, or a sixth sense or something of some sort, or you're in a more tranquil place than what you are when you get into the real world with the society that they want you to live in, where you lose that imagination, where you lose the will to the ability to be at peace, is what it is, and be comfortable with your own skin. So that's another thing I've been working on, is being more confident about how I present myself and how I do things as well. That's it.
Well, actually, there is a lot of research on that you know says that kids under the age of 4, a big percentage of them can actually think on what we would call on a genius level, and be incredibly creative and come up with stuff that is really that you say, wow, that's genius. But from that age on, when they start being in preschool or like institutionalized in school systems, they'll only like 2% still retain that capacity, if because they are told no all the time. Creativity is like cut. No, this is not interesting now, only focus on this and don't talk, and no, you're not allowed to do it in green. If I said red, it needs to be red. So yeah, it is really crippling in that sense. But what I see nowadays is that there is a total disconnect, because on one hand, the school system has always done that. That's not new. But now you even have the schools where the teachers are not allowed even to teach certain common sense or societal norms to kids anymore. So instead of saying, look, this is unacceptable, you don't talk to me like this ever again, you go out of the classroom now, wait for 10 minutes, think about it, and come back. Then the parents will come and say, oh my God, my child feels so humiliated because you did this, or, oh, you raised your voice to a kid. And it's all things that are supposed to be, I mean, what parent doesn't raise their voice sometimes? And I don't believe these parents who say, I never raised my voice to my kids. Well, maybe in general you didn't, but maybe you're really a case where that really didn't happen. But at some point you have to say to your child, no, or this is unacceptable, you please never do this again. So when a teacher does it because he's really trying to help your kids know how to behave, then parents come and are way too soft. and undermine that teacher's authority, even if what he did wasn't really bad, and maybe the kid even learned the lesson. So you have a world that is too soft in a way.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they give kids phones and they confront them with stuff that is way too much for them.
Yeah.
So there is a clear disconnect. Things don't make sense anymore. There is no consistency. And I think
You're right.
that's a
You're right.
problem because, like you said, when this generation now, even, I mean, we were the first generation in a few before us who grew up without a war in the Western world, who didn't go through famine or malnutrition because there was a war. But the people after us, it's even softer because they were already used to decades before them, no war, no difficulty. There are kids who never have felt proper hunger because they snack all day. We still knew what it was to be really hungry before lunch because it really had been since the
Yeah.
morning that we
Yeah.
had something. We didn't snack in between all the time. So
Yeah.
can you imagine never being hungry, not even for half an hour, always getting too much, excess all the time, and
But
then, being told no,
it's like
like you stop this right now. And then they don't even understand that it's fine if they tell you no. The parents don't even want to be unpopular with their kids anymore. So they say yes to everything. Oh, but I'm going to have an argument with my child if I say no. Yeah, but isn't that your job to sometimes have arguments with your
yeah,
kids?
yeah, yeah. This is it. This is it.
Like,
This is it. But did you see what I think? You said I'll call it down in a minute, but like, it's like they're making a general. We're all slaves as it is. We're all slaves as it is, right? But they're making slaves that are even more reliable on food and glutton and all that sort of stuff, right? So then when they take it away, because we're all going to get put into, we're all going to get cannibalized and put into like 15-minute cities or whatever soon enough, and we're all going to be marginalized and we're all going to be stuck in our own little places, and there's even more control. So imagine what's going to happen when they get less, because they're going to take things away. Because when it goes, yeah, because the world's going to get messed up. The world's going to get really more messy before it's going to get messy. It's going to get much messier, I think.
yeah, well, I can't predict the future. There is a lot of ideas and stuff going on also in the media, things they tell you are going to happen. I have become a little bit skeptical. Sometimes you don't know if you should really pay too much attention to it because then you're unable to do your
Folks,
own
yeah, yeah.
thing. Um, I
But,
think we shouldn't panic, but we should be aware of the trends that are out there or what people who are in power actually tell you. They don't
this is
even
it. This is
hide
my
it.
point. Yeah.
They talk about the ideas they have about what society should look like. And I think, of course, you can do certain things easier with people who already grew up without having to do anything tough ever, because everything was there all the
Yeah.
time. They never were really taught to do anything uncomfortable,
This is it.
you know.
Now
So you
I'm
have a
having
lot of
things that are
kids right
uncomfortable.
now. Yeah, and you have kids right now, they ask them, what do you want to be when you're older? And they say, I want to be an influencer. They don't even know what normal jobs are anymore, or that it's actually a really cool job if you're a welder or a carpenter. These people are also needed, it's really cool skills actually, but they are not even taught that anymore.
No, no,
So
this is it. This is it. The education is changing. Everything's changing. But then all I know is that we are always where we need to be when we need to be there, and everything is as it should be. Everything is always as it should be. Always.
well, I think, yeah, we're maybe some people who are listening say, "Oh my God, these two are crazy. They're way off topic now." But well, I don't know. What is your worries about your children? How are you raising your children? How do you feel about people getting divorced at such a high rate? Who's having
I
the
think
unrealistic expectations? Maybe, what are we actually expecting? And how tragic is it for children when people don't even think carefully anymore about what they want of life? Do you want to be married? Do you want to have a family? If you want that, be mindful, about who you sleep with or who you commit to. What things should you ask in the beginning? I mean, it all comes down, I think, it comes down to being conscious and really being responsible. But I think we don't teach people to really be responsible
I think we can. I
100%.
think we can teach. I think we can teach. Even when we teach people to be responsible, things happen, mistakes happen, or mistakes, lessons happen.
Yeah, or they can
I think.
choose not to.
I don't think. I think as long as you don't do things intentionally to go out and hurt other people, but
Yeah.
even with regards to like Lila, I mean, I know she's done some. I don't know what I don't know what I know. I don't know what I do know. I know what she's told me. What I don't know. I know that she's alive. I know that she's happy. I know she's going to have good days. I know she's going to have bad days. I know that, but I know that ultimately, I've done all I can. She's had a better start to life than what I've had. She'll continue to get. She's got a mum that loves her. She's got a dad that loves her. She's taking the best bits out of both of us and making
which
her
is a
own.
lot already.
Yeah.
Which is
She's making her own
yeah.
person. She's got her own journey to do in life, and I'll be
Yeah.
there for her, and I'll be there for her even when if I don't see her for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, I'll something happens that she knows I'll be there. So it's like for me, I think I've done my job now. My purpose is to try and help other people and make normal people going through family court in a more relaxed, litigant in person, self-representing, relaxed, more loving, holistic is that the right word for it? A more holistic way of going through family court.
Honesty and conscious. I think you're helping people be more conscious about the whole process and why they're actually making certain choices,
Because
which
it's
is
difficult choices they have to make. It's difficult. Like I was saying to
it's
this
really
girl,
important.
I was saying to this girl, like this woman I was working with, she has to make a really, really difficult decision. She has to say, for the sake of her child, in my view, for the sake of her child, she has to say that that child needs to live with the non-biological parent because that's what the child wants. And the child's 8 and is saying it, and yes, it's been brainwashed, blah blah. But ultimately, that child, it's going to take time for that child to feel, to understand that what's actually happened to it without it pushing it over the edge because it's just lost its dad, whatever. So you've got to put it in a different.
Yeah, these situations are very difficult, and I think it often all comes down to really making choices, and the more conscious you are making them, the better. Because many times we don't even realize that all these things that happen, a lot of it is choices we made and things we decided.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's why what you do is so valuable. I work, of course, I'm not focused on the legal stuff. I'm not training people on that. Of course, I have more information about family court than the normal person on the street because I just come across it more. But I always tell people, no, for the legal stuff, talk to Jason or talk to James in the States, or I have also the people I can refer others to. But even in the coaching I do, when I say, look, if you want to reconnect with your adult daughter, let's see how to approach this. And they often have to come to terms with the fact that they made choices, maybe unconsciously, but they made decisions and they had consequences. So how to not repeat those mistakes and how to show your child, look, I made these decisions. They had crappy consequences, but you know what? You can learn from my mistake as well. It might be valuable for you too.
That's
And
it.
there is no shame in making mistakes,
Yeah. Be humble. Own your shit. Be humble. Show sacrifice. Stop
Exactly.
compromise.
Yeah,
Be
and these are
pragmatic.
often the best people. I mean, I think the people that I enjoy being around the most are people that are not naive. They maybe had a lot of difficulties, but well, they just say, okay, yeah, I made the mistake. It's fine. But
People don't
I
want to
was
hold
able to, yeah, I was
it.
able to evolve
Yeah.
and not get stuck, or work against myself all the time. And that's really valuable for our
But the
kids
same
to
as it's like the
understand.
thing with your hand. You got your hand. It's the same hand you're born with. The same hand you're born with, but it's bigger. Yeah, you didn't pop out like with your hand like that, was it? It wasn't like that. And a tiny little baby and a big hand. So it's like that hand grew and it's growing like that. It's evolved. So that's what we do as people.
I'm
Was that you?
sorry, something almost fell down here. I'm
I'll let you
sorry.
get
Give
on. I'll
me
let you get on there because I know it's 2 o'clock in the morning here.
Okay. Guys, I need to wrap this up. I just got someone from my family was waving and asking me, when are you gonna be done? I think they are getting
I've kept you too long.
getting
I'm so
dinner
sorry.
going or something. No, but it's fine. It was a great chat. We touched on a lot of things, and I hope, once we post it, doesn't matter if it's the thing in full
I'll
length
edit
or
it down. I'll edit
the
it
bit.
down to it. Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome for people to interact or to tell us what they think. And of course, if you guys need help, please, in the description, we're going to let you know where to find us. And just ask if you need help. Maybe we're able to help you out or to give you resources that you might not be
There's
aware of.
resources. Definitely enough. There's definitely enough resources. You definitely know enough people. If you haven't got the answers, then other people will have the answers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been nice chatting to
Okay.
you. Send that over to me. Yeah, send that over to me, won't you? And I'll
Yes.
chop it up and everything. Cool.
Okay.
I'll speak to you
See you
later.
very soon.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See ya. Bye. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.